Hello and welcome to I Want to Grow. And I Want to Grow, as you hear me say every single week, I Want to Grow is all about that, right? We all want to grow. But with our guests, it's something different. They're helping others grow. And that's what's driving them on. And today we've got a wonderful, wonderful guest. And he's going to do several things for us today. He's going to show us how to walk the walk and talk the talk. But it's going to show you exactly what you've got to go through if you want to be an entrepreneur. And how you do a startup and how you get to the very difficult stages. So Mohammad, after that introduction, thank you so much for coming on our podcast.
Thank you, Steve.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
Please tell everybody, introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Okay. My name is Mohammad Al Gammal. I'm an Egyptian mechanical engineer by trade. And I've been working for quite some time in product design and development. Plus my daily job as a university laboratory instructor. I used to work for Texas A&M at Qatar for quite some time, and currently I moved to HBKU with the same role. And on the side, I'm trying to work on my tiny startup, which is called SunPave. At SunPave, what we did is that we developed a new type of solar panels that can be used on walkways. And very briefly, the reason behind this idea was the abundance of sunlight that we have witnessed in our region, and also the abundance of spaces that nobody is using during the sunlight time. So this is where the light bulb switched on, and we thought of why don't we just throw solar panels on the floor to generate power from that.
Mohammad, all that goes through my mind, and I'll tell you, this is what goes through my mind. And we've known each other for quite a few years,
yes,
right? And I've really admired you. But all that goes through my mind is you've had such a great job. Why would you want to get into entrepreneurship?
Okay, so the job is mainly to provide for the family. This is the main purpose of the steady job, let's say. There's no doubt I learned a lot, and it's a great place to work for. It used to be, but there has always been something here inside that keeps me thinking of taking this role of starting a small business to try to realize the many ideas that I have in my mind.
And with this different ideas, when was that? When did you literally step over the line and say, this is what I'm doing?
This happened late 2016 when we received an announcement for the Supreme Committee's Challenge 22 competition, and they were open for submissions. So the night that we received this email, we had this idea just pop up, and this is when we decided to, as the team back then, to submit the idea the next day.
Mm-hmm. But it was, I know what they do, and they do an unbelievable job. And it was all for the World Cup at the time,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
But was it daunting for you to look up and say, let's go for this?
Of course, definitely. Because we did not have this idea from day one, or at least the final idea, let's say, the one that can be the feasible one. And we kept thinking a lot whether this idea would be good enough for such competition and the legacy afterwards or not. But then we spent some time, we did some experimentation, and we found out that it works.
It works.
Yeah.
And you've successfully had the implementation done.
Yes.
And you did it at the World Cup.
Yes. So the first large scale, let's say, and if we can call it large scale, in this case, large scale, it's more than one panel, let's say. The first large scale setup we had installed in Egypt, in Alexandria, our hometown. And we did almost all sorts of testing that we were capable of doing back then at the time. This space was about 2 parking areas for cars, about 50 square meters. This was, let's call it generation 1 of our design. Yeah. And then as we kept progressing with the Supreme Committee, we managed to get our first customer, which was Al Thumaima Stadium. They actually paid for installing our setup there in their stadium before the World Cup. And we finished the installation exactly 1 week before the World Cup.
1 week before the World
Yeah,
Cup.
yeah.
That was, you must have been sweating a little.
Yes, I used to finish my work at the university at 4 p.m. and then run to the stadium to supervise the work, or actually do my work myself. And then I go back home at 2 a.m. every night for at least 2 weeks.
People would say that that's the wrong way of doing it. That's the wrong way of, you should be putting your 100% focus into this startup if you're going to go forward.
Yeah.
Did you have that luxury?
No, I didn't. It's not wrong what people are saying, because after trying a lot, yes, you need to focus if possible. If you have that luxury, people should do that, should focus and should concentrate on whatever they are trying to achieve.
It's kind of, let's go back a little, because I want to get in the factor that, so you took part in this competition. When did you start realizing that you had a good chance of going far with this, and how far did you go?
Well, we just put together a draft. Let's say for the first submission, we put a draft proposal. They didn't request for much details back then in the beginning. And we knew later, before the shortlisting, is that they received, I think, 1,500 submissions from the region. Yeah. And that eventually.
And this was all over the region.
Yes.
So
it was only open to the Arabic area, the GCC and North Africa, and Turkey, I think. So 1,500 submissions, and they should select only 10 winners out of them. So when we knew those numbers, we weren't very confident, honestly. But then I think they had two shortlistings. So the first time we were selected among 300 other winners, and then we went through like a very short accelerator program where they give us some workshops and so on. And actually our confidence got much higher by the time those workshops were ended.
And you went on to be a winner of the
Yes, we were selected finally as one of the 10 winners. Yeah.
That must have been a magnificent feeling.
It was amazing. It was an amazing night. Yeah.
And it's like it's a sustainability product that you've got, that you're using sunlight. How important was it? Was it a business thing you were doing, or were you focusing also on the sustainability?
Before we tried to turn it into a business, we needed to make sure that it actually technically it's working properly. And again, being guilty of being technical guys, all of our team was 100% engineers. Our main focus was always the technical side. So I'm not saying we ignore the business side at all completely, but again, we always drift back towards the technical side to make sure that everything is working fine, trying to solve any technical issues that come up. Before being 100% confident this can actually generate any revenue or make money, we needed to make sure that it works.
I wanna talk about now the journey.
Yeah.
Okay, because I kind of, when we were speaking the other day, which I said, you've got to come on the podcast. You've just got to come on the podcast. I want you to tell us about the way that you got this going and your whole family took part.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start from after we received the award. Well, I need to take a chance just to thank the Supreme Committee guys. Again, without their help, this would never have been realized.
It was a big prize fund as well, right?
Yes, yeah. Those guys were amazing. The team back then was really, really good. Is it okay if I mention a few names?
Yeah, of course, please.
Ahsan Mansour. This guy was, mashallah, he was the decision maker, the second man in the committee. He was very supportive. He was always there whenever we needed, and always helping us getting a fund whenever we, not every time, but at least he did his best to help as much as he could. Soutien Al Salah. Soutien was acting as if she was part of our team.
Oh wow!
Honestly, I've never seen such dedication and to somebody who's not part of her organization, but she did an amazing job to make sure that everything we needed happened and was readily available to us. So she was an amazing person.
Wow.
And she still is, I'm sure.
But they give back, right? And that's and I suppose we're going to, because I'm going to get you back to the topic afterwards.
Yeah.
But I think that with Qatar, that's we've been in this ecosystem for quite some time.
Yeah.
Everybody's like it, right? Everybody wants to give. Everybody wants to help one another.
True. This it's very surprising, because where I come from, it doesn't work this way usually. There has to be something in return.
Yeah.
But again, I think we presented something that's on par with what was given to us. We gave them a product that works.
Yeah, of course.
Something that has been proven to function as expected, and hopefully this turns out to be a successful business.
But you're going through a process at the moment that it's becoming more and more successful, and you're taking it further and further. Where again, the things that you're doing is quite magnificent, really. But I'm going to take you back.
Yeah.
Come on,
Sure.
Tell us about how you made these products.
Sure. So the award that we received initially from the Supreme Committee by winning the competition was all spent. It was a monetary award, all spent on proving the concept. So we kept further developing our product, building different generations of prototypes. We did all the types of testing that we could, just to reach to a point where we say this is the final design that we are going to implement, and that's it. This took us quite some time, and during the process they were actually trying to market the product for us. This is how amazing they were. So they reached out to the managements of most of the stadiums, and they tried to show them our product. They held multiple meetings where we went and we presented the idea. And luckily, Al Thumama Stadium management, they were very interested, and they got back to us asking for a proposal to install or cover a part of the pavement with our products. And they actually went through it. They sent us a contract. We agreed on the terms. We signed. They made the initial payment, and we started working. So this actually the quantity was quite significant for us back then at that stage. So we had to use help from outside. So we outsourced some of the manufacturing out of Qatar. Then we imported those parts over here, and the problem back then that we didn't have any manufacturing facility to work at, or a warehouse. And again, being the technical guy who has to be on top of the things, so I took it on my shoulder. Is it to make sure that everything happens exactly as I need it to happen. So I shipped a container to my house. I stored everything in our living area, a living room, and I have 2 dedicated rooms at home that were only dedicated for these items. So I had all the tiles and the parts and the components and the material, everything. There was a small equipment that I had to put things together, lying around everywhere at home. And because time was very limited, so I asked my wife, my dear wife, to handle some processes of the manufacturing. So I just laid out the manufacturing process very simply to them. I trained them how to use the machines and so on. And she and my son, they did help me a lot, actually.
And your son?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. How was that bonding? That must have been a great...
It was great, of course, it was great. And definitely, they were doing things they've never thought of doing before. We spent more time closer to each other, trying to teach and learn from each other.
What did they think of you as a boss?
I didn't dare to ask, honestly. I wanted everything to finish on time. Then later we discussed this.
Yeah.
But I tried to stay as nice and polite as possible. So
but that's going to be something that's going to be with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, definitely.
Was there times that you ever thought that you were going to that it was just too much for you? That you wanted to just run away from it?
Yeah. It happened. And one of the strangest places that this happened at was at the stadium, while working on the setup of the stadium. There was a moment that one night I had 2 people they were helping me, and they were provided by the stadium, one of the subcontractors that were working at the stadium back then. One of the days they just decided to leave a little bit early. and I usually start working in the evenings. So they were not there. I called the supervisor, nobody's picking up, and I had to spend the whole night alone over there. It was a horrible night, actually. So
Lonely.
I was trying to think, why am I doing this to myself? But again, I got a phone call from the team in Egypt, and they were supportive. They were very supportive, actually. They put me back on track and gave me the correct push, the emotional push to.
Tell us more about that product of yours, and because I want everybody to know exactly what you're doing.
Okay. So our product is a new type of solar panels that is meant to be used on walkways or floors. And the reason why we came up with this idea was to make use of the vast spaces that are subject to sunlight and that are not mainly used during daylight time. What is new about this idea is that if you compare our solar panels to regular solar panels, the regular ones have to be installed at a specific tilt angle above a steel frame. So this frame, the amount of panels on the frames will basically occupy all the space that you have, and the space is not usable, cannot be used by, by pedestrians anymore. Unlike in case of our product replaces the tiles that you have on the floor anyway, so people can still walk above them, even during daylight or not. The area is still usable. You don't block access.
Yep.
And at the same time, during daylight, you are generating power.
And is it are they generating a lot of power?
They are generating almost the same amount of power that the normal solar panel would generate.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And that, I suppose you'll get to a stage where you'll either put lights in there as well.
We can put lights, LEDs that can be used for guiding signals, for example. We had an idea to put LED screens maybe between them to show to display ads or information for people.
Oh, wow.
All of this will be self-sustainable because they will use power that has been generated by the sunlight.
And okay, so what's the stage are you at now? What are you doing right now?
Okay, so currently we have a company established in Delaware, the US. It's been established for, I think, this is the 5th year now. We have our patent granted, our first patent. So we have some sort of protection of our initial ideas, and we are preparing actually for 2 new patents. What we are trying to do right now is that we need to raise some more fund to finish the development of the product and make it market ready.
Yep.
We are still at the stage. We found some technical problems that showed up after testing for a while at the stadium.
But because you've lived and breathed it, you've already found the solution virtually.
We found some theoretical solutions, but we need to test them. We need to implement and test and make sure that they are actually working.
Right.
This is why we are hiring actually an engineer. This will be our first employee to continue working, helping me in figuring out a solution for this issue.
Yeah.
And afterwards, we need to prepare the product for certification. So to be able to sell in different markets, even in the GCC, all these types of products have to be certified from specific institutions, and this costs a lot.
Yeah.
Our main focus is to raise some fund to be able to cover those expenses.
But it's working. There's a little bit of a heat because of the heat here. That's the problem. So you're dealing with that. But I'm hearing loads of people, somebody shouting in my ear now to say, oh, it better be sturdy if people are walking on it, right?
Yes.
But you've got some really good solutions for that.
Yeah. Mechanically or structural wise, luckily, alhamdulillah, we have no issues. Our enclosures are very sturdy. We tried driving cars over them. We tried throwing
weights.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll show a weight being thrown.
Yeah, from heights on them. And nothing happened.
And there was a dent when you threw the weight on it.
Yes,
there was a dent.
Yeah.
But you said it's self-healing.
Yes, we actually, the material that we used for the top surface is a little bit soft, so it can be dented and scratched. But again, it has a self-healing property. So when it stays in sunlight and heat, being subjected to heat for a few minutes, it gets its original state back.
And with this whole project that you're doing, you've virtually secured funds right now with.
Yes, well, very recently we caught the interest of a close investor, a close friend who is an investor, and he is actually supporting us for part of the required amount.
But I think with this one, it's not like a friend or crazy, they call them, right? It's like somebody that saw your progress as you've gone along, and he's
of course
he saw the
he saw the opportunity. He's not doing this for me as a friend. And he saw the business opportunity. He saw the value in what we are doing, and this is why he stepped in.
What would be that advice that you would give? And it's still a long road in front of you, but I like your story. And that's what I love about you and what you've gone through. What would be your advice to a startup or somebody that was starting out on your journey? What advice would you give to them right now?
Well, I think I have a list. It's not just one advice. But one thing that we learned the hard way, not just to focus on the technical side, no matter how amazing the product technically is. The second advice would be, just to continue on the first advice, I'm sorry, they need to have somebody from the business side from day one.
Yeah.
Because this is where they're going to get the guidance, the proper guidance.
Yeah.
Because at the end, I found out that investors don't care how amazing your product is unless you show them how much money they can make out of it.
And that's the bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. Engineers get emotionally attached to their creations, and they forget about everything else.
Yeah.
This is why the majority of engineers are not rich people.
But it's like as you said, that this is so important. And okay, the next question I'm going to ask you is, where did you see your weaknesses? What were those weaknesses that you wish you would have said? Oh, I wish I would have done that. You said about a business manager.
Yes, yeah, and you're learning about the business side of projects or managing a business. This is very important. Or at least, if I don't have that skill, I should get somebody who has it to do it for us.
Yeah.
And this is something that took us a while to learn.
Marketing and sales are important too, right?
Yeah, marketing is much more important than the product itself. Apparently. Yeah.
But people don't realize this, right? People they take it for granted. They think it's a wonderful product, but they don't do enough market research, or they don't do enough, or find the customers and ask to qualify whether it's what people want.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's an engineer's problem. As soon as you sit down, think of something and build it, and it works for you, you think that everybody else would love it.
Yeah.
And that's not the case, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's never like that.
So you've told us so many different valuable stuff here. What's the next things for you? What's your next part of the journey?
Well, the next part actually is focusing on marketing. We are putting a plan these days to start to reach out to different people to try to sell the product. Because as soon as if we succeed in acquiring a few contracts, long-term contracts, let's say, this will definitely secure enough fund for us to finish work before the due dates to deliver the products. Currently, our new investor is actually in Oman, and he had some meetings with some people over there. He called me 2 nights ago, saying that people are loving the idea and they need more information.
Oh wow, that's promising.
We will be reaching out to these 2 people.
So don't forget, all the contact details are going to be on the podcast. You just need to get in contact with Mohammad, okay? Because I'm sure that he's going to be able to provide you a solution. And I love the product being sustainable. It's going to help so many different kind of people to try to get. We all need to be looking and saving the world in some way, right? And I think this is going to be absolutely fantastic. I have several questions that I ask now that I ask everybody. And one of those questions is, who's your inspiration? Who's that person that you've always looked up to, or the one that's always kept you going?
There isn't one person. There are so many examples around me. But usually my source of inspirations in similar cases are people who did struggle a lot to reach to a really good position or a really good start. Anybody who I know of, who I know that seriously that they struggled a lot until they passed through and they actually achieved something measurable, something really impressive, is a source of inspiration.
Yeah. And another of the questions is and I briefly touched on it. If you were going to tell your 15-year-old self, what would be the message that you told your 15-year-old self?
Work harder. Don't wait for compliments from anybody.
That's it. Yeah. That's fantastic. It's fantastic. Okay. And this is a serious side now. Who are you looking for? What are you looking for?
I'm looking for success. I'm seriously trying to take this small startup to a successful state where it actually is self-sufficient, generating fund, building teams, having a new factory where we can produce our products for many years and sell them for many people.
And who would be that ideal person? What would you be looking for? Who's that client?
The customer, client. Well, ideally, our main target of type of clients would be the municipalities, for example, because they will be able to buy in bulk, and this type of product relies on bulk sales.
Mr. Minister, please have a word with him. I'm sure he can do lots of things for you. Mohammad, you are an inspiration. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
You really have. You've got a story that I think there's going to be a lot of people to relate to you, that's going through that situation, and you're the one that's, I won't say you've come out the other end.
We're going there, hopefully going there.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much for everybody for listening today. Thank you to Workington, because without Workington, we wouldn't have a studio, we wouldn't have their support. And that goes a hell of a long way, especially when we want to get over about people's stories and people that's making a difference and making a difference for other people. So thank you, Workington. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Please like, share, and follow. And it just makes a difference for everyone. So thank you so much for this week. See you next week. Bye for now.